Welcome back to High Frontier for All. This is game number 6, which is the core game without any modules. We're playing as the United Nations Cosmonauts, which is clout A, and that's the top clout that you can get of any crew in the game. This is part number 3. We've already made it through 24 years, and we are going to start this episode or this part off with moving this over into the third sunspot cycle, which means we're going to take one of these chits off here. And we only have 2 sunspot cycles to go. So 2 down, 2 to go. We're halfway through the game. And we have a boatload of cards on Mars. We have all of these sitting in the rocket here, which is 6 cards, including the crew. And we have another 4 cards that are at the outpost. So those are co-located on Mars. And we are going to build a factory. That's the first thing that we're going to do. It does a glitch trigger, but we don't have any glitch on either of those stacks. So we're good to go. We need our refinery here in order to create this factory. So here's the refinery right here. This is the refinery, and we need a refinery and a robonaut. And our robonaut that we're going to use to do the factory is this guy right here. This robonaut needs a reactor. This reactor here that we brought earlier. Sorry, we cannot build a factory right now because we don't have a claim. So what we're going to do first actually is we are going to do a claim, which means we need to prospect. And in order to do that, we need a robonaut with an ISRU value of less than or equal to the number of water droplets on the site. On the site that we're at right here is 3 water droplets, and we have an ISRU of 2. So we're good to go with that. And since it is a buggy, and since there are yellow dashed lines here with the arrows, we're able to prospect all 3 sites. And this is a site 10. So you need to roll a die and roll the D6, and it has to be less than or equal to the site number. So 6 is less than 10, so we don't need to roll. Basically anything over a 5 site, which is 6 or higher, you don't have to roll. You get an automatic prospect. And since we have a buggy, we are prospecting all 3 of those sites, and we are successful on all 3 of those sites. So that just got us 3 points for the end of the game. And it got us claims on all 3 sites. And next turn, we'll be able to build a factory. So the robonaut does not get consumed when that happens. You just use the robonaut to prospect, and you're good to go. In terms of movement, we are not going to move just yet. We're going to stay there because I also want to build a colony. So that's going to be kind of neat. Yeah, that's basically what we have going on out there on Mars. And yeah, so that's our turn. Poor rocket. Get back on there. There we go. All right. So next turn, we have an event. We are going to roll. And at this point, anarchy doesn't really matter for us. I said that last time, but we actually used anarchy in order to decommission our crew back to Leo to fix a glitch. So that worked out nicely. We basically recalled them home during the anarchy event. It's listed as something a little different in the rules, but I'm not going to go by what that says, because that's pretty gruesome. So instead, it's anarchy, and they basically recalled the astronauts and put them into Leo, and they fixed the glitch. So that's the way we're going to look at it. But yeah, so anarchy, though, is not really going to do much for us now, because we're not going to decommission anything. A glitch would be fine. It would glitch this thruster, but I can decommission this thruster and the glitch goes away. I don't really need that thruster in Leo. It's also a mass 0, so it doesn't cost me anything to boost it back up. So no issue there. A pad explosion. Again, that would just decommission this thruster back to Leo. So yeah, I'm not really worried about that. So let's see what we get. Okay, that's a 1. That's inspiration. So what that's going to do is that's going to that's going to bring the top card down to the bottom. This 4-2 thruster is pretty darn nice. I like that. This Pac-Man generator, which is a 0 mass 4 rad hard, needs a reactor with a bomb or the squiggly line thing. I don't know exactly what that's called, but this is a 2 therm as well. This reactor is a +3 thrust, needs 2 therms. That's not too bad. This Robonaut is the best white side Robonaut in the game. It's got a 1 ISRU ray gun. This is a fantastic Robonaut. I might just want to grab that next on this turn. Well, no, I guess not on this turn, because I want to build a factory. The refinery, we'll put that card in the bottom, and we get a 3 mass 5 rad hard refinery. And for the cooler, it's a double cool or a single cool with 2 mass 3 rad hard, or double cool with 4 mass and 2 rad hard. So that's where we're at. This is the best Robonaut in the game. Yeah, that would be nice to have. All right, so for our operation, we are going to build a factory. Finally, we're going to build a factory on Mars, and that is going to be very, very nice. So this is what we need to do for the factory. This Robonaut, we're going to keep with us. It's a buggy, so it's nice, and it's 0 mass, so that's good. So we're going to keep this there. We need a Robonaut. I just noticed something, is that if we use, we're going to ditch this Robonaut and the refinery. This one needs a bomb reactor, and in order to use this Robonaut to do this, we have to use the supports along with it. So we're going to activate this Robonaut. It needs a bomb reactor, and I've only got 1 bomb reactor, and that would be this guy here, which actually this guy needs. This Robonaut needs. So I can't really do much with this Robonaut until I get this reactor back with it. But anyway, this Robonaut needs the bomb reactor. The bomb reactor doesn't need anything, but the radiator needs an E generator. And I brought one of those along here, E generator. And that one also needs a bomb reactor, so that this one will work. You can share. So that bomb reactor is there, and then it needs 2 cooling therms, and that's why we have this radiator, because it's got 2 cooling therms. So all 5 of these cards, remember how easy it was in the other game? We just needed a Robonaut and a refinery, and that was it. Well, now I need 5 cards in order to build a factory, and all these cards get decommissioned to my hand. So I can't even actually take any cards right now, if even if I wanted to. Well, I can't right now in this turn, but even next turn I can't because I have 5 cards in my hand. So this one is sitting at Leo. All these guys here are sitting in a rocket. The outpost has been disbanded, and a factory has been built. And it is on a sea site. So we built a sea factory. Here we go. There's a nice little sea factory. And we have our factory right there. And we have our rocket sitting on top of it. And this Robonaut actually, that Robonaut actually was sitting at the outpost. But I'm going to co-locate that for a free action into my rocket. Or I can put all those things into the outpost. Doesn't really matter at this point, but I'm going to leave it just there as a rocket. Actually, the rocket counts as a point. The outpost does not. So, I mean, right now, of course, the game's not ending right now, but just to give you an idea of where we're at. I do think that the next action that I'm going to do, though, in the next year, which we're not going to move, so we'll just go to the next year, no event. The next action I'm going to do is I'm going to build a colony. I'm going to stick that colony right there. And that colony is worth another point. So we are starting to rack up the points on this during these years here. Build a colony by decommissioning a human co-located with one of your factories that does not already have a colony and placing a colony dome on it. Decommission one co-located human. They have become settlers. So there's no felony. Take a dome from your reserve and set it on top of the factory. And that's actually a free action. So I could say I did that last turn, and the crew here goes back to Leo and is sitting on Leo. And the glitch, a glitch, I do not believe can occur on one of those sites. So let's see here. Glitch is read. Each player must glitch his stack with the most cards, not counting those with humans or those already on a glitch track. A glitch stack, sorry. I guess that those cards right now over here on that factory can actually be glitched. So there can be a glitch that occurs if we roll a glitch roll. So, and glitches are a little rough. That's why you want to keep your crew along with them. But I did want to get that colony over there, and you'll see why. Because now I'm pretty much done with that site. I can do an operation, which means that I can ET produce a card as an action. And if I'm correct, let's see. So you can ET produce, bring a single card from your hand into play, black side up at one of your factories. Place a card in an outpost stack, or I can just put it onto the rocket. Actually, that is a cargo transfer, which, if I recall, is a glitch trigger, but it doesn't cause a glitch. I don't have any glitches there, so it's probably a good time to do that since I don't want that infectious glitch to occur. But ET production operation, the spectral type letter of the card must match the spectral type letter of the factory site, so I can only ET produce C sites or C cards. And ET production can only produce cards on their black side. A card without a black side, the crew, for example, cannot be ET produced. A card may move in the same turn it enters play, and you can choose the orientation of any radiators produced. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. So I can ET produce a card in my hand. What I can't do, though, is ET produce something that's already out there. So that's just something to be aware of, is that any C card that I have sitting on this site right now, which I don't have any, but if I had one, I would not be able to ET produce it. In addition, this card that's sitting here in Leo, I could not ET produce it right now, but I could cargo transfer it and then ET produce it, because the cargo transfer is it's actually a decommission. It's not a cargo transfer because I'm not transferring it from one stack to another. So I could decommission this as a free action and then ET produce it, which if I did would give us, the only thing that's different is the rad hard goes to 4, but let's see, if activated, +1 bonus burn when entering a radiation site. So this one actually is not immune to the belt rolls. It's got a rad hard of 4, but when we enter a radiation site, this gives a +1 bonus burn, which is cool. And we start off with a 1 thrust. So that's kind of neat too. So yeah, that's an option. Let's see what we have in our hand, if we have any C cards in our hand. So that's an M, an H, a D, an S, and a D. So we don't have any cards that we can ET produce there. The other thing that I can do as an operation for this turn is do a factory refill, and I'll tell you what that's all about. We did the industrialize option, which was building a factory, and the cards that are decommissioned can share a support. There can only be one factory on each site. The exploitation track. I forgot to move that down to an 8, which serves 2 purposes. So C8. One purpose is every card ET produced that's a C ET produced card, I can sell it for 8 aqua instead of 3. So that's really cool. And at the end of the game, that factory is going to be worth 8 points. So right now on Mars, I have 3 claim discs, which are all worth a point. The factory's worth a point, so that's 4 points. The colony's worth a point, so that's 5. There's a rocket there, which is worth 6. And the factory is worth 8. So that's 14. And I have a glory chit here, which is worth 1. So I'm at 15 points. And as you recall, I need to get to 40 or more. So I'm getting there. It's starting finally to come together. All right, so let's talk about the on-site refueling. Site refuel operations. The following 3 operations produce fuel tanks at a site, and each one is a glitch trigger. We don't have any glitch on there right now, so that's good. If you have a factory, then you get a lot more fuel. A factory refuel op. A factory on a site can produce either 7 blue FTs, fuel tanks, place these FTs in a co-located stack, or create an outpost. So I can create an outpost out there again and put a whole bunch of fuel if I want to. And then I can actually use that fuel if I want to. If I ET produce a card, I can actually bring that card back by paying fuel in order to do that. and I will tell you about that. It's called a delivery operation. And the delivery operation is if you have a stack at a factory that contains both a black side card and the specified fuel tanks, you may move the card to Leo by expending fuel tanks from that stack equal to twice the number of heliocentric zones the factory is from Leo, plus 1 FT if the site is 7 or more. And it's a glitch trigger, but we don't have any glitches there, so we're good. So it's 2 times the heliocentric zone difference, and that's only 1 because Mars is right next to the sun, right next to Earth. So that's 2. The site is greater than 7, so that is our site is equal to or greater than 7. It's a 10, so that's going to add 1 more. So I can move that to Leo if I have a black card over there for 3 aqua. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what it's going to take in order to take off from that site. And that is going to be a factory assisted liftoff, which I do not believe that we have ever done before. So that is under the movement section and site landing and liftoff, factory assist liftoff. If a site has a factory, a spacecraft with an activated operational thruster may enter or exit that site without needing a thrust greater than the site size. So just like we went down into Mars with the air brake and didn't have to be greater than the site size, we can actually take off using a factory and do that as well. So a factory assisted liftoff, if the space first moved into the factory assist liftoff as a hazard, ignore the hazard. Well, we don't, there is no path there. We don't go directly into a hazard. Actually, the liftoff from there goes directly to this lander burn right here, which I believe negates the ability to do a factory assisted liftoff. So let's take a look. High gravity limit. A spacecraft may not use factory assist to move into or out of a lander burn space, with the exception of an acetylene rocket planes. All right, well, let's talk about the acetylene rocket plane liftoff. A spacecraft may use factory assist to exit, but not enter. Okay, so we can't actually use it to enter, so that's why you got to use the air brake, but you cannot enter. But you can use it to exit an atmospheric site, which is Mars is an atmospheric site. It has a little cloud icon on each of those sites. So Mars has a very thin atmosphere. So that we can use to allow movement into a lander burn by expending a special water cost using fuel tanks at the site, which is what we're going to get when we do what is it? What was it called again? I just said it before. A lot of terms in this game. A site refuel. A factory site refuel. Okay, so let's keep on going. So we have to expend a special water cost using fuel tanks at the site. This water cost, which is expended without adding to the spacecraft's wet or dry mass, is equal to the number of blue fuel tanks, is equal to a number of blue fuel tanks equal to twice the initial wet mass of the spacecraft. Then continue movement, treating lander burns as burns that you cannot halt on. This represents wing boosters using fuels manufactured directly from the atmosphere. All right. So we have to expend 2 times the mass. Now, we need to adjust our rocket because I do believe that some things changed in that rocket. So let's take a look and let's see what we got here. This Robonaut is a 0 mass. It needs an X reactor, and we don't have an X reactor with us. So this Robonaut is just sitting there in the rocket, but it's not functional, nor is it useful right now. But it's also got a 0 mass, so that's not costing us anything. This reactor is used by the thruster, and this reactor has 1 therm of cooling needed, so all 3 of these cards are necessary for the thruster to be active. And the total mass of this is 3. So if we don't put any fuel in this rocket, which I don't think that we want to do, because we wouldn't be able to go to any burns, because we don't have any solar power. So solar power wouldn't do as much good in Mars anyway, unless we had some more modifiers. But if we didn't put any fuel, it would cost us 6 aqua in order to take off out of that site and go to Mars low orbit. But we don't necessarily want to stop there, obviously. That's not really going to give us much. So we want to go somewhere where we can get probably out of that Mars system, and then set up an outpost, and then get another rocket out there that has that buggy, reactor for the buggy, and meet up with it so that we can go out and explore. I wouldn't mind also getting this Robonaut here and exploring a whole bunch of asteroids at once. That would be really cool. So, but anyway, right now this would cost us 6 because it's 2 times the wet mass, and if we didn't put any fuel in there, the wet mass would equal the dry mass, and then that would equal 3. 3 times 2, 6. So right now our mass is at 6, and our dry mass, our wet mass is at 6. So I'm going to move both of those down. The thrust is at a scout, which is a net 0, and our thrust is actually at 8. So 8, which is not great enough for 10, even with the afterburn. There is an afterburn that's available to us, and that would bring it to 9 thrust, but that is not going to take off a 10 site. So still though, 9's pretty good, which means we can go to 8 sites. And 8 sites are basically out here. Here's an 8, there's an 8. So there's 2 8s out in the Jupiter system. So we could go there, and those might not be bad places because there's hydration there, and there's that buggy yellow dotted line with arrows, which means we prospect both of those sites. This one's a submarine. That's a submarine. You know, those aren't bad to go to. That might be interesting, because if I do a colony on those, I'll get an extra 2 points for the submarine. So that'd be 3 points for the colony, or 2 points for the astrobiology here. So that's interesting. I don't know if I want to go out there just yet, though, but I'm definitely going to need to get off of Mars, because Mars, to me, I can set up other factories and stuff like that, but they're all sea sites, so it doesn't really make much sense at this time. I also can't prospect anywhere without my reactor. So at this point, I need to just try to figure out where I'm going to meet up and then where I'm going to go next. So what would you think that I want to go? Do I really want to go out to the Jupiter system right away and do that? Or Do I want to maybe focus on something over here, which allows me to prospect 4 sites if I have that ray gun? Or do I want to go to, say, the moon? And I would only be able to prospect if I had that one, because it's only a 1 hydration. So that's a little rough. I could go to this Venus aerostat city, Exity, here, if I want to. I could also go to Mercury if I want to. That's a lot of burns. But I could explore with the buggy there because it's a 3 hydration. Although I wouldn't be able to explore there with the buggy because it's no hydration. So that wouldn't really be super useful. Really, I guess Jupiter is the best move for the buggy at this point, at least the Jupiter's moons. Unless I want to go to a bigger site, like, for example, Ceres. Ceres out here is a nice big site with a submarine on it. That's kind of interesting, actually. Let's just say that I get out of this Mars system and come this way off of get out of the burn, the lander burn here, which I wouldn't need to pay for because I would do that acetylene pay. So you don't need to pay for that burn, but you have to basically go through it. You can't stop on it. So it brings me up to low Mars orbit, and then I would have a burn here. And then I would come down to Lagrange point, have another burn here, move to here, do a pivot, wait, do a pivot. Here's a burn, and then here's a half a burn. So that would be what, 1, 2, 3.5 burns. And with this thruster, that would be 3.5 burns would be, this one has a fuel consumption of 3. So that would be 3 times 3.5, which is 10.5 fuel stops. And I'm going to still need my reactor. So I can meet up, though, with the reactor by coming out of Leo, boosting that up into Leo later on, coming out of Leo, going to the cycler, to Geo, to Lagrange point, pivot, and then meet up at this Lagrange point, set up an outpost there, basically, and then meet up, and then go on to Ceres. So that is definitely an option. And then from there, I could go out to, well, get toward the Jupiter system here. Yeah, I pivot here and then go out that way. So there's definitely some options there. That's interesting. Yeah. Huh. Okay. Well, I have plenty of options. But I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a factory on-site refill, mainly because I do want to get that rocket out of there. Although the solar flare will be coming up sooner or later. And I do have to roll, although this is a -1. Let me look at the rad hards on these. Well, this one's a 2. So if a solar flare came up, I would roll the die, and then I would subtract 1. Let me see here. Make a die roll and apply the result to every card of your non-Leo and unshielded stacks. It's shielded in a factory, or on a site, for example. Adjust the result by the modifier listed in the zone if rad harness is less than the modified result. So let's just say I rolled a 6 minus 1 would equal 5. This card would be decommissioned this Robonaut, which I suppose, as long as the other rocket's not already on its way out there, that really wouldn't be a terrible thing, because I would just boost it up for free because it's a 0 mass. So none of these cards are going to be affected by a CME. So that's good to know. All right. I am going to do the factory on-site refill, though. I could bring that aqua as cargo, but that if I did that, that's gonna up my wet mass. Well, really my dry mass, which ups my wet mass as well, and I got to pay double to get off there. So that's going to cost me a lot in order to do that, and I really don't want to put that as cargo. I'm already going to have to put some in there to make. Well, I suppose that's only going to be one burn to get to that Lagrange point. But I don't necessarily want to leave any aqua there either. So I'm going to be paying a bunch of aqua, but I need one burn to get to Leo. Let's see, Yep. So I just need one burn to get to Leo over there. I'm sorry, not to Leo, but to Lagrange point. So one burn is going to cost me 3 fuel steps. And we're at a 6 mass, so that's going to be 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to need 2 fuel tanks for that. And when I go up there, the wet mass is going to be 8, and I have to pay 2 times the initial wet mass of the spacecraft. So that's going to cost me 16 aqua, twice the initial wet mass of the spacecraft. It says the initial wet mass of the rocket. Initial wet mass. I don't know exactly why it's saying initial one. Because initial, does that mean like without any fuel? I guess it's not counting these as fuel tanks for the rocket, the ones you use for the acetylene rocket plane takeoff, so liftoff. So yeah, I think that's what it's talking about. So I would have a wet mass of 8, which I have to multiply. I always forget turning this thing off here. Have you noticed that? This scrolling thing. Now it doesn't really cover up too much, but it covers up a little bit, and it's kind of annoying, to be honest with you. After a while, I just notice it. Anyway, so it's going to cost me 16 water plus 3 stops for the burn. So I'm going to need 3 stops is 2 water tanks. So I'm going to need 18 water over there in order to get that thing rolling. So I'm going to need to do 3 factory on-site refuels back to back to back in order to get to 21 fuel. My goodness. And I suppose that I could bring 1 more fuel with me. That would bring my wet mass up to 9, which means I would need 18 to take off, plus the 3, which is 21. So that would leave me with no aqua back on Mars. I think that's the way to go. All right, so for the operation, we are going to put 7 aqua. I guess it's on the outpost, or I can just stick it in the rocket as cargo for now and then use it for the acetylene rocket plane ultimately and not adjust anything here. I'm not going to put the the dry mass and wet mass up 7. It doesn't make any sense because I'm just going to go ahead and use those anyway for the acetylene. So it just wanted to put an outpost out there. That's really the only difference at this point. Okay, so that was that in our movement. We're not moving anything right now, although here's the other option, which is put everything in an outpost out there, bring my rocket back to Leo, and bring the crew out there as soon as humanly possible in order to not have any glitches going on out there, or if there is a glitch, immediately fix it. Because if I recall, an on-site refuel is a glitch trigger. So if I had a glitch on it, that would be a problem. Let's see here. On-site refuel, factory refuel. A factory can produce either 7. Actually, it doesn't appear as though that is. So operations site refill, it does say a glitch trigger there. But in these rules, let's see what it says. It says factory refuel. Factory, please, factory hijack. Let's see if it says it before that, just straight up. Okay, three, produced fuel tanks at a site, and each one is a glitch trigger. Yep. So a factory refuel op does do a glitch trigger. So if I have a glitch on that, that's going to cause a problem. I could lose something within those cards. So that's not really cool. But at the same time, I also want to get my reactor out there, because that buggy uses it. It's this one here. And this is a 2 mass. So if I get the crew and the 2 mass out there, that's a 3 mass, and that's a probe. So it gives me +1. So I would have 1 thrust to get out there, just like we did last time. I could also ET produce this if I decommission this into my hand in one of these turns, and then I'll actually be able to get 2 thrust. So that's not bad. And a free pivot, because it's got this little ballerina icon on there, right down here. So that might not be a bad option as well. But I definitely want to get that reactor out there. The radiator and the Robonaut are mainly for factories, to build factories. There's only 1 mass, so if I brought that to a 4, I would still be a probe. That might be the way to go, to do that and just not bring the generator, because I do need the refinery in order to build a factory out on Ceres. And that's a 3 mass. So if I did bring all these cards, including the crew, that would be a 4 + 3 is 7. That would bring us to a scout, which would be a 0. But if I did have this would be a 1 thrust. And I only needed to get it to this rocket until I can use, a bunch of thrust. But then again, I also need to have more fuel to be able to get where I need to go. So I'm going to need to bring fuel with me. Wow, this is quite difficult. This is quite difficult. So the question is do I want to move anything right now? Basically this thruster and crew, and just to get them out there. It's going to take a while though, because I don't have hardly any thrust. It would only be, if I took the crew, it'd be a 1 mass. So that would be a +2 because it's a wisp. So I would actually get 2 burns I would make it out there pretty quick, but there is an event coming up right now for me. I wouldn't mind to have this thruster. However, I do need this type of generator, and I do not believe that I do have that kind of generator here. So that's neat. I just need to boost all this stuff up into Leo. Okay, so I'm not going to move. I'm just going to leave that guy out there. And we're going to move to the next year because we did our site refuel. I know that turn took a long time, but I also wanted to explain a bunch of different options and a whole bunch of different things that I could do. And that gives you a better idea of what you can do in this game. It's really kind of open of what you decide to do. Sure, there's certain rules you got to follow, but for the most part, you can decide where you want to go and how you want to do it. All right, so we're going to go to this event here. We're in the yellow season, which means that budget cuts, we would have to discard a card of our choice from our hand if we roll a 5 or a 6. So let's hope for not a 5 or a 6. And actually, I don't really want to glitch because that would go onto that rocket right now. And that would not be good. So let's see what we roll. Okay, that's a 5 or a 6, which means that we have budget cuts, which means I'm going to have to discard a card of my choice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to decommission this guy right here as a free action. I believe that is a free action. Let's see here. Free actions. Yeah, except during spacecraft movement or during an operation. It's not either one of those. Each of the following free actions may be performed. And G6 is a voluntary discard or decommission to your hand or stacks. So I'm going to go ahead and decommission this guy right here, and I'm going to go ahead and discard this because I've already decided I didn't want the solar sail. So that budget cut, I can choose the card, and I can go ahead and I choose that one, and it's gone. So now we're going to do an operation, and again, we're going to do an on-site refuel, and we're not going to move. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 more fuel tanks are sitting now on top of that rocket. And that is the end of that turn. See how quickly that one went. So the other turn was very, very long. This turn was very quick. There's no event here. We are going to do another factory refuel. So that will give me another 7. So that gives me the 21 that I need in order to take off. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take off. So that's using 18 because the wet mass of this rocket, I'm going to use 3 of these 21, and I'm going to fuel up my rocket. 1, 2, 3, and that puts that on 9, which is a transport, which is -1 thrust. So that brings it down to a 7 because my thruster here is a 4 plus a 4 because I have all the supports. That's the reactor, and there's the cooler. So I have all the supports for that. And I'm going to use 3 for the fuel and 18 for the acetylene rocket plane liftoff because it's twice the wet mass. So there you go. That is a takeoff with the acetylene rocket plane. First time I ever did that. Pretty cool. Get you off a site without having to have a thruster, which is greater, a thrust value, which is greater than the site size. So what it allows you to do is go directly into the lander burn. And from there, this is not a burn into low Mars orbit. I need to spend one fuel movement, which is for this thruster here, is a 3 right there, a 3. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, and I basically have one more burn. So I burn there, and then I come down to the Lagrange point, and from there I have one more burn. So I could actually go here and all the way out to here in the series zone, which may not be a bad idea considering CMEs, as we talked about. If there's a solar flare, it'll affect me a lot less out there. That might be the way to go. I don't think I want to go back to Earth. I could do another burn here and then go to this Lagrange point. Here's Earth. Go here and stop. So that actually wouldn't be a burn. I'd go here. Here's a burn. Here's a radiation roll, which would be fine because my thrust is so high that I would be able to get through there without a problem, because you subtract the thrust from your D6 and the thrust would be probably an 8 at that point. So that'd be a -2, and I don't have any red hards that's less than -2. So I go here, and then I would do an air brake maneuver into Leo. So I actually could get there with one more burn and go back to Earth and go back to Leo. But I don't think that I want to do that. Well, maybe. I mean, and I say maybe because I don't really have a good thruster that's there. That actually might be the way to go. Yeah, I think that is the way to go. I actually do think that that's the way to go, rather than just waiting out there for me to get another thruster just to bring that out. Nah, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to wait at the Hohmann crossing. That is not a burn. We only took one burn into the Grange, into the Hohmann crossing, and we're going to, next turn, we're going to pivot for free, because you can start, if you start on a space like this, the next turn you can go any movement. And it does, and it doesn't cost you a burn. This, of course, going this way would cost me an immediate burn. This one wouldn't. Going back wouldn't cost me any burn. This one's not going to cost me a burn. But as soon as I get to Geo's going to cost me a burn. That's going to be my one burn. And then I'm going to have to go down into Leo. But let's just say this. If I roll the hazard roll and I don't, well, everything gets decommissioned back into my hand, which is not the greatest thing, because that would cost me a lot more ultimately in order to boost it up to Leo. So I'm hoping that I don't fail that hazard roll. All right. I moved. I did my on-fuel site operation, and that's the end of that turn. We'll go to the next turn, which is another event. I just really hope I don't roll a 3, 5, or 6. That is a 6. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to budget cut one of my cards here, which is really kind of unfortunate, because this bomb reactor is good for that Robonaut. Actually, it's the X reactor, which is really good for the Robonaut. The radiator I need for this generator, and the reason why I need that is if I'm going to build a factory, I need to have this refinery, and the radiator because it supports these two cooling therms. What I could do though is I could ditch this Robonaut, just straight up ditch it. If I ditch this Robonaut here, I'd only have the other Robonaut, and that one I would basically lose when I built a factory. I would decommission it, and I kind of like having that Robonaut with me so that I can take it out to other sites, even though I'm just bringing it back right now, I suppose. But after I get out further, I'm not going to want to do that. I do kind of want this Robonaut though. So yeah, I can't really get rid of the refinery, which uses this generator, which uses this radiator, which actually this generator uses either that reactor or this reactor, but this reactor is necessary for that, but it's not necessary for this Robonaut. So you know what? I'm gonna get rid of this reactor here, because I'm gonna want to do a. I'll probably just take that refinery there. I'm sorry. I'll be able to take. I don't need to get that refinery. If I ditch this reactor, I won't be able to use this Robonaut, this buggy anymore, but I would be able to hopefully pick up this one. And this one uses this generator and one cooling therm. But this generator still needs 2 cooling therms anyway. So I'm going to need to keep this radiator no matter what. So I can keep this Robonaut for a factory later on. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this reactor here. All right, so I got 4 cards in my hand, which means I can't take any cards right now. So I'm getting rid of this reactor for the budget cuts. And I'm going to do my movement first. So I'm going to spend 3 in order to burn at Geo. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And so my wet and dry mass. Actually, I didn't adjust my. I was at 1, 2, 3. I was up here, which means that my thing is a scout. So I got 4 plus 4, which is a thrust of 8. So I adjusted that. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm on the same wet and dry mass here. Let's put that there like that. And that puts me onto this radiation spot. So I got to roll for the radiation belt. However, like I said, the thrust is at 8. So 8 something 6 or whatever, even minus 8 is not going to do anything for me. We're not in the red zone, so I don't have to add 2. But I am going to, I can't do another burn into the cycler. I don't have any more fuel. So I can go to the aero brake here. And let's see what I roll. I really don't want to roll a 1. Oh my goodness. Yep, you saw it. It's a 1. So you know what that means. That means that all these cards here in my rocket get decommissioned, which is basically going to cost me another 3. And I got tons of cards in my hand now. That was my movement. The rocket is gone. I didn't really lose any wet mass, which is because it was 0, so that's good. So I didn't really lose much there. All these cards are decommissioned to my hand, which is not, I would rather have them in Leo because it's going to save me 3 aqua in order to boost them up again. But it's not the end of the world. It's fine. But that rocket did disintegrate back on entry onto Earth. So success. I mean, it built a factory out there. The colony is still surviving. I tried to get the equipment or the rocket back to Earth, and unfortunately it burned up in the atmosphere because I rolled another 1. Man, I roll a lot of 1s. I don't know if it's the die. Maybe the die is loaded a bit to land on one a lot. It's possible. I mean, this is not a standard die. Does it feel heavier on the one side? I mean, well, look. So I just rolled that around in my hand. I don't know. It does kind of feel a little loaded towards that one. Maybe the red that's on it is a little heavier than the other things. I mean, it's a bigger pip, I think. Huh. Interesting. I don't know. Maybe so. Well, anyway, I've got a ton of cards now in my hand. And so this buggy, I was considering getting rid of. Right? Yeah, I was considering getting rid of that buggy. The reactor I wanted to keep because that one is good for my thruster, which I need, and one cooling therm. I could, instead of having this one here, I could use just this reactor here with 2 cooling therms, because I need 2 cooling therms for the generator, which is needed by the refinery, and this Robonaut if I can get it. So it's only got a mass rad hard. It's only got a rad hard of 2, but that's okay because we got plenty of thrust in this rocket. So I'm not really worried about rad hard at this point. So I could get rid of this radiator here, which is only 1 therm for 3. And I could also get rid of, so we're going to keep this reactor. Sorry, you can't see the cards that I'm saving here. So these are the 3 there. This refinery I'm definitely going to save because that builds my factory. This generator is needed by what? By the refinery, right? The buggy Robonaut is no longer useful to me because I got rid of the X reactor. So this thing can go. This needs a bomb reactor, and I actually ditched that one as well. So this Robonaut is kind of worthless to me at this point, too. And this radiator, I really don't need anymore either. So I've got 8 cards in my hand, and I really don't need 3 of them. Unless I get another reactor that can support these robots. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to sell this at my operation. I'm going to sell that for 3. I could also just get rid of cards and not sell them, but I do need the aqua. So I'm going to put 3 aqua here in my bank and sold that. And we are not going to move anybody at this point because we don't really have a rocket. So that'll do that. All right. Next year, we're going to go into the red cycle. And but I'm going to be safe from any solar flare because I'm at Leo, so I'm safe. I still have a whole bunch of cards in my hand. I've got 7 cards in my hand. And I want to start getting rid of these guys. What I could do is I could boost this up right now. The generator, the radiator, the thruster, and the reactor. I could boost all those up right now and hope that an inspiration doesn't come up so that I can take that Robonaut. But knowing my luck, I'll probably roll a 1 or a 2, and that Robonaut will be gone, and that'll be just tragic. I could hedge my bet, I suppose, and keep my other Robonauts for now. Yeah. I also need this refinery to go up, but that's 3 mass. That would cost me all 3 aqua if I boosted that. But the reason why I'm thinking about boosting these 4 cards is because I'd have 3, and then next turn I could take the Robonaut. So that's what I'm going to do, because I'm going to use all these anyway. I know that I'm going to take all these. So I'm going to boost all this up for 2 aqua, 2 mass. So those are all going to Leo, and that'll cost me 2. And that's my operation. And now we're going to go into the next year and roll. And hopefully it's not a 1 or a 2. Oh my goodness, it's not. Finally, I rolled a 5. And 5 is a solar flare. And the solar flare does nothing to us in Leo. So we are safe. Let me just make sure that's true. Solar flare, global CME roll, see CME threat above, 1d6 plus the heliocentric zone modifier, decommission cards with lower rad hardness, Leo, cycler, non-soul spaces, sites, and sites are unaffected. So no worries. We rolled a solar flare, but solar flare did not hurt us because we are in protection with the Van Allen belt. All right. Because we're in low Earth orbit, just sitting in low Earth orbit. Not even in a rocket. We're just in a little orbiting station, I suppose. And we have our generator parts ready to be assembled into a rocket. Okay, so that was the event. Now for the operation, I only have 3 cards in my hand. So before anything goes crazy, I'm going to go ahead and take this beautiful Robonaut and pay 1 to do so. The supports. I don't know if I have to take the supports with me. If I must take those. So let me take a look and see what it says here. I think that's in the appendix for the solo play. So let me take a look at the solo play here. It's for altruism. It's research auction operation. Instead of the research auction, take the top card of a patent deck, including bonus supports. This costs a number of aquas equal to the number of cards taken. It says including bonus supports. I2G. I2G in the core manual says research operation bonus supports. If the card requires supports, the auction winner also takes the top card of the patent deck for each required support into their hand. You do not get additional cards to support the support. You get the top card of the required type, regardless if it's the correct one. Extra supports are not moved from their deck until the auction is won. So I think that I have to take the supports for that Robonaut, and that Robonaut has 2 different ones. It's got a generator and a radiator that it needs. So I think I would have to pay 3 in order to do that, and I don't have 3. I only have 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell one of these Robonauts. It doesn't really matter, I guess, which one I sell. They're both 0. This one, well, either one of these is going to, either one of these Robonauts needs needs support that I don't have, which is from the reactor. So it really doesn't matter which one I get rid of. And rad hardness really doesn't matter for me either. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and sell this Robonut here. Yep, selling this one. Okay. So I'm selling that one for 3 aqua. And that is my operation. So the next year, and we are a little overtime. So we will come back for the next episode with that starting right there. We will not move that block over there, that cube. We will start at that year, which would be year what? 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, year 33. So we went through from years 25 to 32. And we will see you in part 3 for, well, probably halfway more to the end. So we'll have probably 2 more episodes. And we'll see if we can get to 40 points. We're on our way to series. Thanks for watching.